Hello, everyone. Most of you know me. I'm Sally Rice. I'm from Heartspace Development. And this is another one in my Wednesday. It's now regular on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, my Women in Business conversations. And today I am joined by the lovely Hannah Brady. Hello, Hannah.
Hi, Sally. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining me today. Hannah and I were just reflecting, actually, and this is going to be a repeat for Hannah, but we overlap. Hannah and I overlap in lots of different ways. We actually have the same coach, who's Lucienne Shakir. We have come from a similar background in commercial interiors, but actually we've never actually met. So I kind of feel like I know Hannah, but we've never actually met, which is weird. But we did have a little chat before this, which was lovely. But Hannah's joining us. Hannah is one of the co-founders and directors of the Brady Creative, which she's going to tell us all about. And Hannah also set up her business during lockdown, so we can have a little bit of a chat about how the experience was, well, continuing to be, I think, in some respects. So Hannah, to kick us off, do you want to tell us a little bit about your kind of journey in the corporate world? Because obviously I do talk a lot about that kind of corporate to setting up your own business. So what was your career background before you got to the Brady Creative?
Yeah, no worries. So I graduated from uni with sort of, my marketing theory degree, as I like to call it. Came out of uni and moved straight into what were advertised as like marketing roles, but essentially they were I was cold calling. So I got thrust into the world of cold calling within what I would say was probably an SME company in the IT world. I then spent a bit of time with another SME working and transitioned into marketing and sort of built my way up through there. It was a very small proactive team. There were two of us that were doing the marketing at the time, 3 businesses. So I worked my way up there. And then I got to a point where I sort of hit a bit of a glass ceiling there, and no one had done anything wrong. It's just the job became quite easy for me and I wanted to progress. So then I took a huge sidestep from like IT and workspace into logistics. And I went and worked for a huge company called Schaefer, and they've got like 10,000 employees worldwide. So that was like big corporate.
Whole different experience. Yeah.
And I was really excited. I thought, big company, big opportunities. Ended up moving to Germany and working in their head office for a little while, and very quickly established that actually that sort of scale of business is not for me. I quite like being able to have
more intimate.
More intimate environment. Came out of that and moved back into the workspace world, but with some of the bigger SMEs. So I worked for quite a big manufacturer who are operating globally now. And really sort of my progression went from like marketing executive type roles and marketing assistant roles. And I worked my way up to when I came out of that world, I was head of marketing for the UK arm of that business. And for me, I learned how to do what I do, like on the tools. I think a lot of people probably say that, but I just got thrust in at the beginning of it all and learned how to do it. But over time, the reason I ended up coming out of that and going into running a business, I just got really quite frustrated with the restraints that can create. I only have experience of being in marketing, but the restraints that just being an employee can create sometimes. And I've established I'm not a very good employee anymore. I'm a bit gobby by nature, and I've always been quite comfortable saying what I think, and that my frustrations got bigger, my voice got bigger, and it wasn't always welcomed. So here I am.
I love that. And we were just talking actually about that transition from being an employee to obviously running your own business, being self-employed, and potentially, as you were saying, in the longer term, obviously being an employer as well and having your own people. And how was that transition for you? I mean, obviously there were things that were frustrating you, which you still have frustrations in your own business, but at least you're the one who's in control, making decisions and so on. But we were just talking before about some of the, I guess, the mindset shifts. That's a tricky one on a Wednesday lunchtime. Going from being an employee to working for yourself. How was that for you? What did you struggle with, or what do you still struggle with? I mean, I'm going to be honest, I still struggle with some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, my boss is she's pretty tough. Like she cracks the whip. Now I'm doing it, cracks the whip pretty hard. 'Cause, yeah, I am my own boss now. It's hard. The biggest thing I found, we were just sort of joking about it, but I've always been what I would say is painfully conscientious. Like it's a strength, but it can also be quite a big weakness for me because it's painful. And that hasn't gone away. And actually, I found that I still apply the same pressures that I was finding from my bosses in my previous roles. I'm still applying that to myself. And sometimes when you apply it to yourself, it's harder because it's harder to manage. So we were laughing, but it took me a while to get out of that mindset shift of if I'm going for a walk at lunchtime, or if I need to go to the shop, or if I need to go and do something, I'm now completely in charge of my time. Nobody else is. So I'd say to mum, my mum's my co-director for those who aren't aware of that. But I'd say to her, I'm just going for a walk, but I'm taking it as my lunch break. So I'll be back. I'm not, and she'd look at me over Zoom going,
what are you doing?
Go on, it's fine. You're the boss as well, So I think it's that not having somebody there necessarily to keep you accountable like a manager would or a director would, but then learning how to not be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see loads of the same joke on Instagram, which is, we leave the corporate world to get rid of the 9 to 5, and then we end up working for ourselves and working 24/7. Now, I don't think either of us or anyone really does work, obviously, the 24/7, but it's a total shift, isn't it? Like you were saying, you get some of your best ideas just before you fall asleep. I was saying I get them in the car, like that traditional sitting at your desk and working from 9 to 5. Okay, that was changing in the workplace anyway, but that concept of like being at your desk, like you said, being accountable for your time. I'm not skiving off, mum. I am taking my lunch break. It's quite a change, but we can forget that we're sometimes working even when we're not maybe working in the traditional sense of sitting at our work and sitting at our desk and at a laptop. It doesn't mean that we're not working if we're going for a walk and actually having some great ideas, but it's a difficult one to get your head around sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the concept of work, just off the back of the last 18 months that we've all had, and actually it was happening prior to the pandemic. The concept of work is becoming a lot more fluid and a lot more flexible. Which
is a good thing, definitely.
It's an amazing thing because no two people are productive at the same times during the day. I'm actually the kind of person who I get up quite early and I'm in the office for sort of 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:30, because my window of high productivity and least disturbance is from 7 until probably about 10. And in those 3 hours, I get huge amounts of work than if I'm not on calls. And then my day starts into calls. So, but I might finish a little bit earlier. And I think one of the things you alluded to about, you sort of leave the corporate world and the 9 to 5 and end up working, 7 till 9, and it all goes a bit out the window. That's another thing. I'm naturally a workaholic because I really love what I do. Like I enjoy what I do. Some of my friends will say, they'll say, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "I'm just sorting a few bits out while the Olympics is on in the background." And they're like, "Why are you working?" And I'm like, "Because I'm actually having a nice time. It's fine." But you do have to keep an eye on that, because when you're running your own business, particularly in its infancy, like you'll be experiencing at the moment in its first couple of years, you can't just clock off like you can when you're employed and you're contracted 9 to 5, because even if you've got a big role, when you're employed, you are contracted to work 9 to 5.
Yeah, and you leave the office or you finish for the day and that's it. No, absolutely. And I think it's really easy, like you said, in the first few years of business, for it to be all consuming, partly because, like you said, we both enjoy what we do, which is fantastic. That's part of the reason why we have our own businesses, to enjoy what we do. But I think it's that tipping point, isn't it? I don't want to say work-life balance because it's a bit of a cliche, but it is, when work starts to become all consuming. I mean, I know during the pandemic, I'd be like, when was the last time I left the house? Like, even going for a walk, which Lucy M was having a real go at me about, in a good way. But it's that balance. It's quite a fine balance between everything being about work, partly because we enjoy it, and actually making sure that we do make time for other things. And like you said, because we haven't got anyone else holding us accountable, we don't have a manager in a positive way, saying,
Yeah.
I think you need to clock off now. I think you need to take a bit of time off, or whatever it is. I suppose at least you've got your mum there for that, I suppose.
To be fair, I'm not sure what's worse, having, when your mum wants you to clock off and relax. I mean, yesterday she said to me, I had quite a heavy day yesterday. I had about 6 or 7 calls during the day, and it was just a very intense day, and they're not like that day to day anymore.
Yeah.
I try and avoid that, but it just so happened that yesterday was.
Yeah.
And she can never switch that mother in her off. She was like, I'm worried about it. You need to finish. Don't work through the next couple of hours, go home. And I did, because she was right. So we do have that level of accountability, that's a respect for each other as co-directors, but also out of concern as mother and daughter for one another. There's like an extra layer of, I know you better than you know yourself, love. So
yes. You need this. Listen to me. No, absolutely. And I talk a lot about having the right support, and that's great that, you've got that in your mum. Obviously, we both have a business coach. But aside from that, people who don't want to go down that route, just having the kind of accountability partners, or, people that can kind of help you keep on track. I think you need it in business. You need it, I think, at whatever stage in business you're about. But anyway, do you want to tell us a little bit more about, so you've told us a little bit about your career journey so far. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the Brady Creative is, what you do, what that's all about?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, we're a marketing agency. So to give you a bit of background, my mum's background is graphics, illustration, art direction, creative direction. She's an extremely talented creative, but she's also worked in large corporate. So she used to work for a big agricultural brand. So she's used to that huge structure as well. My background is more content strategy, marketing strategy, and actually putting all of the channels together and figuring out, right, we want to get in front of that target audience. How do we do it? What do we say? And, what kind of level of consistency do we need? So I tackle the strategic side. So in terms of services that we provide for people, there's 3 main areas that we will help people with. So marketing strategy is one, where we'll go in and look at big picture, what we need to do. And then most of the time we then end up supporting the client and helping them either implement parts of that, or sometimes all of it. We have some clients where we are their virtual marketing team. And then you've got the brand and the creative side of things. So how to actually present your business to the world. We'll rebrand existing brands, or we'll help a business, get a new brand off the ground, or a new product maybe that needs branding, or a new service that needs its own brand. And then we help with day-to-day content as well. So some people will come to us and their first port of call is, we need you to help with our social media. Again, we always take it back to strategy. So we'll go, yeah, cool, we can help you, but we need to go through a strategic process first. And then again, we'll help them with day-to-day. So we're really trying to establish ourselves as a strategic agency that can do the creative as well. We're both, which is quite rare.
Yeah, because people do generally tend to be a little bit more one or the other. Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell, obviously, you love it. Your passion for what you do comes through, which is just so nice to see. And we were going to we put out there, on LinkedIn, that we were going to talk a little bit about marketing strategies and why that is important. It may seem like a no-brainer to some people, but to some people that might be a little bit of a more unusual concept, especially if they haven't come from a role where they were very involved in the marketing. I've said before about how you come into business and you start wearing all of the hats. You are the accountant, you are the social media manager, you are the admin, you are the sales, you are everything. So for some people, obviously, marketing is I guess a foreign area for them. So do you want to tell us, because obviously I'm all about giving the practical advice to anyone watching. Do you want to talk us through, Hannah, about what is a marketing strategy in the basic form? Why is it important? And like what can people start thinking about when they're thinking about their marketing strategies?
Yeah, sure. So again, like in the most basic terms, it's a plan. It's a plan of action. What are you going to do to get your business out in front of the right people and actually, grow your business and try and, move your business forward. So I actually have had quite a few conversations recently where there's definitely a perception around strategy that it's a bit dull. And I even had someone say to me recently, you don't strike me as someone who would deal with strategy.
Really?
And I sort of went, well, what do you mean? And they were like, you're really fun and I was like, yeah, strategy can be fun. Like, it's what you make of it, right? And I think there's definitely a perception that it's hard work, it's boring. You put one together and it gets put in a file on your computer and it never gets looked at again. That happens a lot. I'm not a fan of that. So if you ever work with me, just be aware you will be using your strategy. But it's basically what we would look at. And for anyone who's listening who is, like you said, Sally, is not really sort of sure of its benefit and doesn't know how to go about it, if you do only 3 things when you're trying to create a marketing strategy or a plan, you can call it whatever you want, like call it a marketing dream, a mission, whatever sets you on fire and gets you excited about it, call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be called a strategy. But if I could say there are only 3 things you need to be doing, number 1, you need to get to know your target audience like the back of your hand. I bang on about this a lot. I'm like a bit of a broken record, but I don't care because it's really important. So really map out who you're trying to get in front of. You might have 1 target audience, you might have 5, you might have 10. It doesn't matter how many you've got. You need to know each of them like the back of your hand. So give them a profile, give them a persona, get a real feel for
your ideal client.
Like where do they live? Where do they spend their time online and offline? What taps into their like drivers as a human being? Like really get a good picture of them, because they are your be all and end all. They are who you need to be focusing on. Secondly, once you've sort of established who they are and what their profile is, you need to start thinking about what is it in their life that you're making better for them? What is it that you're fixing for them? And really, if they're talking to somebody like you, a brand like yours, or a person like you, if you're a coach, let's say, what are you fixing for them? So really sort of define what it is that you're helping them with. And then thirdly, once you've got who they are and what their persona is and what it is that they need help with, that's when you need to start looking at, okay, how do we say what we need to say and where? Because we know who they are, where they live and what they like to do, where they spend their time and what they need help with, we can then go, right, this is what we should be saying and these are the channels we need to be using. And that's it in a nutshell. That's quite high level, obviously. There's a lot more.
No, that was a good intro.
3 sort of starting points to focus on those 3 things, I would say, if you do nothing else.
No, absolutely. So ideal client or niche, would you say that's the same kind of area? What's your speciality? What's your who are your people that you're targeting? And then the next step was, remind me, it was narrowing down your pain points. Pain points. So what problems have they got that you can solve? And then obviously how and where do you do that? And obviously, what social media platforms and all of that. And I think that's a really, really good overview. And it's probably things that people are thinking about already, but just not maybe in a, hate to use the word, but strategic way, as in to have an actual plan around it. I'm sure they have an idea of who their people are and where they might be and how they might communicate that. But I guess it's putting all that together, isn't it? And having more of a targeted plan, because it's quite easy, I think, also in business, I think especially at the beginning, where you're kind of flitting around. I know I did in the beginning, where you try and do a bit of everything, and obviously you're in that setup phase, and it's quite easy to kind of get distracted with all the things rather than having a bit more of a proper plan around what you're doing. So that was,
you're spot on, because it's a really important point you've just made, is knowing your own capacity as well. Like, say you're a new business owner and you're starting a small business, part of your marketing strategy is highly unlikely to be that you're going to be spending thousands of pounds on pay-per-click ads or SEO, because actually you need to focus on where are the quick wins, where do I need to be talking to get business in. Then your strategy will probably, it changes as you mature as a business. So it's about constantly reviewing it as well. It's I think it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite subjects in the world. And I have many, but it's not boring. And I am a person that looks like a person that does strategy. Trust me.
I love it. Well, everybody looks like a person that does strategy, really. Exactly. No, I love that. And like you said, Hannah, you do lots of different things, don't you? I've seen some of your videos, and I'm gonna be asking Hannah about how you can connect with her. But I've seen you singing on LinkedIn. I've seen pictures of you golfing on LinkedIn. And that's great. And I think you've definitely put it out there before, and it was something that I'm including in my course this week, which is about the kind of people getting to know you as a person and buying obviously into you. When we're talking about small businesses, I don't really like the phrase small businesses, but new businesses which are growing. It's people buy in, especially when you'll be working closely as they would be with you or with me. It's important that they know, I hate to use the phrase, but they know, like, and trust us. And part of that is, it's the non-workers, isn't it? It's the actually, what is this person like? Will I get on with them, and can I work with them? Which isn't just about what you do, I guess.
No, it's not at all. And it's really interesting because I'm with a client today doing a marketing strategy work.
Brilliant.
Yeah, genuinely, that's what I'm doing today. But it's funny because this is only the second time I've met this client in person, and I've been working with them for 8 or 9 months now. And we were just actually saying how he felt like he knew me before he met me. And the amount of times I get people contact me, or when I'm dealing with a new inquiry, a lot of people will say to me, I feel like I know you and I feel like I've met you before, but I haven't. And for me, that's what I'm aiming for every time. That's the ultimate compliment to me. And I choose, everyone has their own level. I choose to share quite a lot. I mean, one of my most recent videos, I'm crying because I looked at a spreadsheet and it got me all emotional, which was a first. But I want people to see not all of me, but I want people to see a lot of me so that they can make a judgment of my character before they talk to me, because actually what you see is what you get with me. There's not really much.
It's important to know that you can work with that person. But I think you bring up a really valid point there about, what you choose to share and what you don't. I think there can be a feeling sometimes, particularly on some social media channels, particularly I think personally Instagram, where you can say, for example, you can follow people, or you can look at videos or stories or whatever it is, and you can think, oh, I need to share my whole life. That sometimes that can be the takeaway, is that it leaves you with that feeling that, you need to almost be sharing everything. Whereas obviously that's just, it's your choice, your boundaries about, what you share. And like you said, you may share more than most. Other people may not share as much, but equally, that's fine. As long as you're getting across, your personality and who you are and what you're like as a person. I think you don't have to be sharing what you had for dinner, or what you did at the weekend, or anything like that. But I think sometimes there can be that feeling that you should be doing those things. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And having worked with Lucien, anyone who works with Lucien, should is a word that's not in the vocabulary of Lucien. It's not allowed. And actually, I think you're spot on. I think it's a personal decision, right? And personal brand is a big topic at the moment. And with the nature of lockdown, we've all had to sort of show up in different ways. And I think you put, social media as a channel in general has a lot of pressures that are associated with it. It's about getting to grips with what you're comfortable with, pairing that with actually how you feel you need to be showing up for your clients and the people that you're getting in front of, and finding a place that's comfortable for you. I'm still working on it. There are things that I share sometimes and I think, was that an overshare? Like, are people going to be judging me for sharing that? And actually what I've learned to do, and through coaching that I've had and through things I've done with myself, is if I'm okay with it, then that's the main thing. I'm not doing anything that's offending anybody. I'm trying to help people and give people an insight into what it's like running a business and being high functioning with your marketing.
No, it's an interesting one, and like you said, it's a learning journey. We might start off feeling that we don't really want to share anything, and then a little bit maybe we go through a journey with that. But it's it's an interesting one. It's one particularly close to my heart, because I hate that, like you said, that word should. I hate that word should. If I could delete that would be great. But I think social media can sometimes have that influence over what we put out there. But we digress. So if anybody watching would like to connect with you, Hannah, or with the Brady Creative, what's the best way of doing that? Where can they find you?
So I'd probably say LinkedIn is the best channel, really. That probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone who's watching. Love it. I'm a LinkedIn junkie, as one of my clients recently.
Love it.
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So it's just Hannah Brady. The Brady Creative is the Brady Creative, all one word on LinkedIn. You'll find it that way. That's probably the best way, because that's where we sort of spend most of our time. We've got a website and things like that, which I'll put in a comment under the sort of post that goes after this. But connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's where you'll see the most of me.
That's what you'll find Hannah sharing. No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Hannah. I feel like we could chat for ages, but I appreciate you coming and sharing your journey from employee into starting your own business, and obviously your passion for what you do, and hopefully people got some really useful takeaways to start them thinking about the marketing strategies that they may or may not have in place with their business. So yeah, thank you, Hannah. It was brilliant.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And we'll have to figure out how we meet in person soon as well.
I know.
I think we need to sit and have a glass of wine or something.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. That sounds like a good plan. Thank you everyone for watching, or anyone who's watching on replay. Any questions or anything for Hannah or myself, just add them in the comments. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thanks. Bye. Okay.